So, as I said at the start, my name's Jerome, JB. I'm a principal consultant in Azure with Mantle Group, and I'm also now an MVP in DevOps and Azure IAC. So I spend a lot of my time working out, in a sense, a lot of this stuff of how is AI going to actually make lives easier for everybody on the way past. And so just a quick sort of show of hands, because I know and I did this like a year ago when we first kicked off, but who in the room is actually a developer by trade, that you spend your days writing code? Got a few. Who's sort of infrastructure side of things? Yep, a few there. Who's just here to learn? Yep, a whole lot of people here just here to learn, and that's cool. So for those who, this one here is going to be a little bit more relevant, that we're going to talk about the app modernization for those who are actually doing development work. But if you're interested on the way through, there's a lot to be taken out from here on this. So those of you who are doing developers, who's a .NET developer? Yeah, Java? Yeah. So I was potentially hoping for a few more. There's plenty of Java out there, and these applications, .NET, Java, particularly, are ones where a whole lot gets written, and then it stagnates. And then the world moves on, and there's a whole lot of new ways of doing things, but it's not actually ready to go. And you can't then just take that code, pick it up, and move it. And as Dan was talking about as well, the whole aim of what we want to get to is actually doing the work that's meaningful, doing the work that's enjoyable. What we don't want to be doing is spending our days searching through a code base, doing a find and replace. grep is fantastic. VS Code find and replace across project is awesome, but it doesn't always work. And it doesn't work when you need to kind of uplift things on the way through. And so I'm going to talk about this new preview that came out with Build, of being able to uplift apps and modernize your apps really simply, leveraging the power of AI. And so there's two languages that are out at the moment in preview. If you've got other languages that you know of, that you use, that have dependency issues, that have this legacy issue that you really need help with, talk to your account managers, raise it up through GitHub, because it's the sort of thing to build a code and some libraries up to make it a lot easier to be able to do this. But at the moment it's Java and .NET. We're going to focus a little bit more on Java today, mostly because that was the easier demo and I couldn't get Visual Studio going in a dev box. But that's a whole nother story from there. But much of what we're going to talk about applies across both Java and .NET. So what we've got within the Java app modernization is two key components. So the first one is being able to uplift your SDK versions. So obviously Java comes out, and we started back, and I remember working on Java in the days of Sun Microsystems, which is before the time of most of the people here. And it makes me feel old. And then it went out, and now it's been bought by Oracle. But time marches on, and new versions of Java come out. And so there have been long-term stable versions. 6 was a big one. Then you've 11, 17, and now we're on to 21. But each of those has a whole lot of changes that occur on the way through. And you just, as much as they promised that Java would continue to work that way, it doesn't. You need to be able to uplift it, and you need to change it. But that takes time, and that's error-prone as well. But more than anything else, it's just boring. And therefore, it's a tech debt that gets left in the background. We'll get to it one day, because it's going to take a lot of time, a lot of developers, a lot of time to do it right. And actually, we want to prioritize the important things about getting new features out to our customer, or just making sure that it doesn't fall over. The second one, which is kind of related, is then, well, how do we take these legacy applications, particularly these big Java enterprise applications, and move them from running on premises to running in the cloud? Yeah, we can clone the VMs and move them up, but is that the most efficient way of actually operating? No. And cloud patterns have moved on, and just architectural patterns have moved on. We don't hard code secrets into things any longer. We don't sit there and try and build our own databases. We want to leverage platform services. But how do we shift our code? Again, it seems like a small reward for a lot of effort, but it can actually turn into a big reward. And that's where AI really is going to help us. So when we talk about the app modernization side of things, and again, like Dan, I'm not going to bore you with slides all the way through. I do have demos for this. I've talked there about the Java app modernization. So if you've got a Java app, it's running in 8, 11, 17 or 21. Don't need to obviously modernize it much from Java 21, but as we go forward, or if you're running Spring Boot, and whether you're using Maven or Gradle for your package management, if you're meeting those requirements, this tool can help you. It can help work through your code base, identify what needs to be changed, and uplift you to whichever version. Say you want to go from 8 to 17, you can do it. Say you need to go from you're in 21, but you need to go from Spring Boot 2.7 to 3.2. The tool will help you work through that. The only other requirement is that you must be running in a Git repo. That's because it will create a branch and make all its changes in there so that it's very easy to roll it back. It's non-destructive in terms of all of that, so it's really important to be able to have that. So let's have a quick look and see what this looks like. So this is a tool that is available in VS Code only at this stage. It may change, it may come out, but it's done as an extension. And you'll see here in my sidebar here, I've got 2 extensions here. And the one we're looking at the moment is this App Modernization upgrade for Java. And so I've gone and found this application. So this is uPortal messaging. It's as it says here, a Spring Boot microservice for determining messages for a user. So this is, I'm assuming, I don't know if it's a commonly used library. This is one that Microsoft has recommended for looking at as part of this from here. But the key thing for us to look at is this is written in Java 8. So this has been written sort of 10 to 13 years ago. So it's reasonably old from there. And if we wanted to uplift this and we want to make this more maintainable, it's something that we can do. And so the way we do this with Copilot is once we have our Java application ready, we've got all our prerequisites installed, which you'd need for building and testing. We install the VS Code plugin for App Modernization, and then we can literally just sit here and click the button. It does give us a sample prompt because clicking the button is only going to create a prompt and run that in our Copilot. And so this is where we can pick what do we upgrade from and to. From this case, we're going Java 21 and Spring Boot 3.2. I click that button and theoretically, again, demos, non-deterministic. This should be operating here in our chat. Let's just do it manually. Actually, let me double check. I am on the wireless. You can never type in front of other people. Okay, we're going to have to reload. Let's just quickly rebuild that container. That will take a couple of minutes. But like any good kitchen show, cooking show, here's one I prepared earlier. So this here is one that I've run through because that upgrade process will take about 45 minutes to run through for this reasonably small code base. But what it does is it kicks off, it starts analyzing it, and it's all built off a set of recipes. So Microsoft have created a set of recipes that are loaded into the chat, into the extension, and the agent is able to use those to then analyze the code and identify the kinds of patterns that need to be changed in order to migrate through. And so when you do it, what it will do is create here a Java upgrade folder under GitHub. This is the date and time that it ran, and it will go first and foremost and create a plan. So the first thing it does is it analyzes to see what's going on. It says, right, what are we doing? So where's my project path? I'm coming from Java 8. It's built with Maven. These are my tools. Here's my source JDK and here's my target. So I've got everything that I need in order to be able to work. I'm going from Java 8 to 21, from Spring Boot up to 3.2 from there. And then this is the execution plan. What am I going to do? So the agent goes, builds all of this out, gives you a plan. You have the opportunity then to review the plan. What do I want it to do? When I'm comfortable with that, I say, yep, go ahead and do it. And it does, notice what it's also doing here. Initial code modifications using the Java Upgrade Open Rewrite tool. So it's a tool, actually, Open Rewrite is a open tool that you could just download and run against your code base. But this is orchestrating around it. Use it, but as it says here, but this is usually not enough. So start with the tool and then see what else needs to be done. Check for build errors and fix them using a provided tool. Check for any other issues. Doesn't this look a lot like the prompt files that Dan was talking about in the last session? Because fundamentally that's what this is. Go through and check for any CVE issues. So are there security issues that are being introduced either with the existing packages or particularly with the new ones that are being introduced? How do we resolve those on the way past? Repeat steps 2 and 3 for several attempts until it's done, and then summarize the changes. Once you're happy with that, you tell it to go, and it goes, and here's your progress. You can watch the agent chat run in the background, but from here it's going to generate the plan, confirm the plan as we looked at, build the project, run the tests. What works, what doesn't today. We can therefore check at the end to make sure that all the same tests work, that we haven't broken any functionality. This is the point of tests. Upgrade the project, 23 changed files, 306 insertions, 285 deletions. So a reasonable amount of work has been done across this from there. Build it, summarize the changes, validate from the way through, run the tests, what's happening. Obviously something else failed because we build the project, summarize the code changes again. You can see it iterating as it was told to. And then we're done at the end of it. So again, some tests failing, but those tests were failing at the start. And now it's happy. And now what we've got is a tool, an upgraded tool that's ready for us to take out, review the code, and then test. But how long would it take me to go through if I jump in and show, where's so those were the recipes. If we have a look over here at the changes, these are all the files that were changed on the way past. How long would it take me to manually go through and modify those 28 files all the way through? That's probably going to take me a couple of days work, and I'm going to be a zombie at the end of it because I've been staring at the same screens and copying and pasting all the way through. But that's been done for us in 45 minutes rather than a whole day. And we're ready to test from there. So now that this is rebuilt, we'll just go from there. Let's try this again. Start a new chat. There we go. So upgrade the project. So that's, as we can see here, it's as we saw, it's generating that upgrade plan. It's going to ask. It should ask for confirmation shortly. Just ignore the download there of AppCAD in the background. Here we are. So there's our upgrade. Our plan's been generated from there. So please review the plan. We can interact with the agent and say, you're wanting to do this, but actually when you've looked and found Java, you've found the wrong version of Java. So in this case here, we've got Microsoft OpenJDK, but maybe we're needing to use the Amazon version because we're going to AWS, or maybe we're needing to use another specific release of Java rather than the Microsoft one. Hey, please find that correct one. We can interact with the agent to update that plan before we execute on the way through. And away that goes from there. So we can hit continue, and that's going to run from there. So it's really simple. The sort of thing where that's tech debt that can start to be chipped away at really early in the piece, bring you up to the modern, more maintainable platform, and continue from there. And then we'd look at the other half of the piece from a Java side of things, which is the app modernization. And again, this is something you could do manually. So AppCAD is a free tool that comes as part of Azure Migrate. You can run it against the code base. It will give you recommendations about what needs to be updated. It will talk about how to do it. And it's got predefined formulas there for taking Spring Boot, Tomcat, WebLogic, WebSphere, JBoss, whatever you're running for your front end. And you can say, hey, we want this into container apps. We want to go to an app service, or we're going to AKS. What's the best way? Because there's subtly different architectural patterns at the back end. Or in this scenario here, if with the Java one, if you've got an application that doesn't fit any of these patterns, you can fix one. You can point the assessment tool at your Git repository, ask it to analyze the changes that you've made, and build a recipe up from there. So if you've got a completely custom setup, something that's wildly different from any of this, you've got that ability to actually go, here is a sample of what we want to do, build a recipe up, and feed that in to the agent. Again, we could do this we could do this ourselves manually with other ones, but just having it all as part of this makes it so much easier from there. So what does that, so there we see this one here is running open rewrite. So what does that look like? So this is where we come here into the app modernization. And so again, this is another VS Code extension that interacts with our agent. And we run an assessment. And out of the assessment, we're going to get a report back. What needs to change in order to bring this up? And as part of this, again, if we have a look in here, this is where we look at our app mod. It generates an assessment file, which says, what am I going to do? So here's my targets that I'm targeting. I'm looking at the source only, but what you can do is tell it, no, I want you to also go and fetch all the dependencies. Check out the dependencies that we're pulling in to see whether they're going to work for where we want to go. Or are we going to have to refactor this a little bit more? And if so, what are you going to suggest for that? So it can go deeper than just looking at the source code that you've got now. That's doable for Java, because when you pull in a Java dependency, you've got your bytecode. You can see what's going on. It isn't always the case for everything. And so again, we build our plan. Once we've built our plan, it runs. And this one here goes through and says, right, we've got some issue categories. One here, somewhere we're referencing localhost. So we're assuming that we're running everything in one place. Well, we're going to need to update that, because localhost isn't always going to work as we go forward. We need to deal with our logging. And we've got a whole lot of remote communication because we're using insecure protocols locally. So we're just talking over HTTP or listening on HTTP rather than listening on HTTPS. And so we can propose the solution. What do we want to do? So here's a local call, and so we can migrate it. For logging, at the moment, we change the configuration, use the user console, because we're going to container apps, or if we're going to AKS, or if we're going to app services, we're going to see those details come through from there. So that's looking there at app modernization from there. And as I said, it works for .NET. If you're using .NET, you do need to do it in VS Code. So there's a plugin for for Visual Studio, not for VS Code. And if you're already running .NET Core or .NET 5 and above, so it's all the modern .NET stack, then you can upgrade it. Whether it's ASP.NET, Forms, CLI tools, WPF. The one thing that's missing from that list, if any of you know from a .NET side of things, is good old .NET Framework. The old Windows only option. But there is a tool for doing that. You can get from there into .NET Core. Microsoft have a tool. It's just not built into the stack. And then once you've taken those recommendations to get out of Framework and into Core, then you're able to use this to get uplifted into the modern versions of .NET.